panelists I have here are, on my very far left is Jeff Sakaguchi, formerly a senior partner at Accenture, also very well educated, I believe, chemical engineering at MIT, and then went on to grad school at Wharton School of Finance, one of our premier business schools in the country. I've also got to his right Judy Levy, who's 30 years in the business of fundraising. She's really at the top of the game in terms of entertainment, related fundraising, to charities. I've also got Ron Cohen, who's the CEO and president of United Cerebral Palsy. Been with that organization, I believe, since 1987? 1980. Each of these people serve in different capacities in the philanthropy world, but each of them have interesting experiences, insights, and learnings that they're going to share with us today about their world and what they've done. I'm going to start with Jeff. Jeff, because of his for-profit background, the first question I want to ask Jeff relates to how he approached the nonprofit world, given the fact that he worked with CEOs of major companies, and now he's in the for-profit world. If you could speak to that.
Thanks, Ken. And first I want to say it's really an honor to be here in front of this tremendous group of people. And you are all connected in your communities and your businesses in ways that I'm very envious of. And it took me a long time in my career to get to the point where I could feel like I was giving back to the community. It's been very exciting for me to be part of the American Red Cross here in Los Angeles. And along those lines, I've been on the board for 5 years. I've been chairman since July, and I think one of the important things to understand about the Red Cross is sort of a land shift in the way fundraising has been done. Probably 20 years ago, we got the majority of our funding through United Way. It was just money from the community chest that was donated to the Red Cross, and we really didn't have to do a whole lot of, excuse me, real fundraising like you all are having to do. Where we probably had about $10 million a year a little over 20 years ago, we are now down to $300,000 to the Red Cross for for the LA County area, which is obviously not a whole lot against a budget the size of ours. So we've had to become very creative and very thoughtful about our fundraising activities. One of the things that's been very beneficial to us, and Kent alluded to it, I think we had to change our mindset from being just a disaster and humanitarian aid services provider, which our volunteers really rally around. And as you probably all are aware, we are a strongly volunteer-run organization. But that approach doesn't necessarily raise money from the known sectors of the population, both community, foundations, corporations, and individuals that we seek and need here in the greater LA area. So part of what we've had to do is become strategic in our fundraising, and really step number one was to polish up our own financials. I think our financials were in disarray even 5 years ago. We were running deficits. We had the inability to account for a lot of how money was raised, and I think that turned off a lot of the donors that we had years and years ago. So we spent 5 years really professionalizing our whole organization, and people like Amy Keller and others have really helped us to create a completely different face to our donor community. And I think that was really step number one. Be professional. Treat your money as if it were a business. Don't treat it as a means to just deliver the services. And that makes you a lot more appealing to your donors and your prospective donors, because they have a lot more faith and trust in exactly what their money is going to, and they can see how it's being used, and they can see that it's being used efficiently. The other thing that we've done is we're trying to change some mindsets. When I arrived at the Red Cross, I think historically the best way to raise money was to have a disaster. And unfortunately, that's still sort of the case. We get the vast majority of our significant fundraising following major disasters, whether they're wildfires and mudslides here in LA, or disasters like Haiti, Shenzhen, China, and other places. So we obviously have needs in between those disasters, and our big focus right now is on preparedness. And LA, we've come a long ways in 5 years from what I think you would all be very afraid preparedness, to making significant strides that way. We still have a long ways to go, and we need money and funding to be able to provide those preparedness services. So actually getting in front from a business perspective and thinking about how do you put that message out in front of people to give money now to do the things that will help us when that disaster occurs, as opposed to waiting until it occurs and hoping for the best. And so I think a lot of our effort has been put toward an effort that we call Prepare LA, and there's a website, www.preparela.org, where tremendous information. It's just a starting point for us to really create significant fundraising here in LA.
Excellent answer. And just one comment I think that is really important about what Jeff said is that what I really respect about the American Red Cross is the ability to look at themselves and be objective and make changes. Even for a large organization like that, to be able to say to themselves, our fundraising is coming based upon certain occurrences that are tragic disasters. How do we turn and spin this into something? And that's exactly the type of thing that Prepare LA is about, is looking at your weaknesses but then spinning it. And a very focused approach to that type of strategic planning is a lot of the things that we believe are important for charities to think about when they're engaging in their missions and their purposes, is this ability to be able to look at yourself from the outside and make changes. Ron, I want you also to comment a little bit about, and this is more in a general sense, but I do want to get specifically into some of the business things that you guys are doing from the charity standpoint, but I do want you to comment upon just the general understanding of, or your sort of opinion about approaching charity from a business perspective.
Okay, well, United Cerebral Palsy serves about 1,000 children and adults with all disabilities, not just cerebral palsy, autism, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, epilepsy, blindness, etc. Every day we have over 400 people that live with us, and we've been doing this for a long time. We used to have a telethon because the man that founded ABC, Leonard Goldson, also founded UCP, and we had the first telethon, and telethons were easy ways to make money. You were actually selling ad time, TV time, to corporations. Everybody that called in went on your donor list, so now you were building your list for mailing and mail appeals. We spent almost 9 months out of the year just working on a telethon. And being in LA, that had star power. We lost a telethon, and we no longer have a telethon. And for the last 15 years, we've had to figure out how to raise money. I don't believe, when you're talking about looking at yourself and critiquing yourself, I don't think we were doing a very good job at our company in terms of traditional fundraising. Golf tournaments, mail appeals, foundations. We were raising $1.5 million, $2 million a year, but we were just lucky that we had old-time supporters. So we kind of looked at it in a different way. When I asked you, when we talk about charitable funds, is a golf tournament and the proceeds is that charitable dollars? Is that fundraising? You would say yes. Direct mail appeal, fundraising, you would say yes. How about if we went up to Sacramento and found $2.6 million hidden in a housing fund given to me by the government? A lot of people would say, no, that's not fundraising. That's government support. No, it's fundraising, and I didn't have to pay a hotel, I didn't have to buy food, I didn't have to buy someone drinks or give people gifts. So we started looking at where are the non-traditional pots of money that we could go after to support our efforts. And that's what we've done. So we discovered HUD, who were going to give us money to build. So we started going after HUD money to build, and then once we built with HUD money, then they would give us money to subsidize those buildings where people are moving into, which is low-cost housing. And since we started that right after the telethon, we've become the largest